and welcome to Unpatched Conversations, where we have honest discussions at the crossroads of leadership, cybersecurity, and culture. Discussions that go beyond headlines, from those living it every day. We are joined by leaders, decision makers, and innovators who share with us firsthand what it takes to lead securely in a digital first world. Our today's guest is Ireena Alphonse, someone who has been shaping resilient strategies in sectors where failure is not an option. With careers spanning across continents and industries, she brings a lens that's both technical and deeply human. Welcome, Ireena. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Bilal. Thank you for having me in this podcast.
So let's start with the current sector that you are focusing on. What does resilience look like in this sector, and how do you start building resilience, especially when you know that this is something that cannot afford to go down?
In a banking sector that I predominantly belong to, downtime is something which is not acceptable, as you can imagine. Now, the way we look at resilience is preparedness. And preparedness comes in different layers. One is your technical layers that you have, your crisis playbooks that you have, and also the adaptability of your team, how you respond to that particular incident for that matter. So that's built into the culture of the organization. That's how I try to build resilience. It's always about not if it happens, when it happens, are you ready?
Got it. So do you think the way organizations have evolved and the way technology has evolved over the past decade or so, is it because of this preparedness that organizations are able to handle such risks better and are more resilient? Or is it just because the technology itself has made the reaction more efficient?
I would say both, but from my experience, I rather give importance to the culture. You will hear me talking about cyber culture on and on and on again, because technology that we have is just one aspect of things.
True.
Now, if your business leaders are not ready to accept the risk and the risk belongs to them, things can go wrong. And that goes from top to bottom. So more than the preparedness, it's more around the culture also that the current organization are trying to embed in a top-down approach.
Right. And when you say culture, cultures definitely vary across regions, across geographies. Then the strategies need to be adopted to the local cultures as well. What works in one place will not work in the other, right?
So I want to correct two things here. When I talk about culture, one is building a cybersecurity aware culture within an organization. That is one aspect of it. And to answer your question, yes, the cultural nuances across region also vary a lot, right? Now, within this region, it's hardly a year for me in UAE particularly. And here what I can see is that we are leapfrogging in a way because we are ahead, unlike what is there in the West. West, in a way, is still struggling with handling legacy technologies. How do you handle your tech debt? Here on the other side, we are thinking about smart cities and digitalization, AI, so on and so forth. So that cultural shift is what I see is different from the other side of the world to what we have in UAE. So good thing for me, for people like me, is that I don't have to worry about legacies. I just need to focus only about what need to be built from now on. So they are more adaptive to the latest frameworks and latest technologies, which is helpful in some way or the other. And also here, people are ready to invest, which I'm quite happy about, right? Yeah.
So did you find, I know you haven't spent too much time here yet, but were there any lessons from your past career or the other regions which you immediately felt will not apply here, and some which you felt are still applicable here as well?
There are quite a lot, and that has been my biggest challenge when I started itself, because a lift and shift from what happens in UK or Canada or US is not going to work in this region, right? And I keep repeating about the legacy systems that we need to deal with, and they're the regulatory requirements that the West have to deal with. So there is a different kind of culture and different way of looking at things, and more stringent that way. And when it comes here, when we are looking only about innovation, the way we want to adapt also changes. So the same trick, the same playbook that I might had earlier is definitely not the one that is working here for sure.
Right, right. And when it comes to, I know you are probably going to be working on your own playbooks and these things as well,
Yes.
but at the same time, there are some standardized regulations and maturity frameworks as well. How different are those, or how is the compliance to them different from where you were before and in this region?
There isn't much difference, to be honest with you, because see, here we talk about NASA and other standards that we need to follow. Primarily, they all rely on NIST, for that matter, right? NIST CSF or ISO. So the moment you have a framework like NIST or ISO, and you are using that to build a maturity level, some way or the other, you're able to tackle the local regulations as well. Now, people still thinking about getting ISO certification is good enough, at least in some organizations that I've seen. But at the same time, I'm seeing the change across people. It's not just about a checkbox that we want to tick by going and following ISO standard or a NIST standard, but and build risk into the culture in itself.
Right. So you're saying that the tendency is moving more towards actually implementing certain regulations and policies rather than just doing it for the purpose of external validation.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. There's definitely a change, at least from my experience that I have seen. Yes.
Are there any particular sectors which you feel might be leading in this thing, and some which are probably lagging behind and still need to catch up?
So, financial sector for sure is ahead in comparison to the other side of the world. And I would also say about the government sector, especially when you're providing critical infrastructure services.
Right.
So I think in the region, they have specific regulations to follow as well. That kind of helps. All right. So yes, these are the two predominantly the sectors that I would say that they like to align. Rest, I feel, is still have to go a long way. But yeah, I think that sense of culture is there already in the region. Yes.
And is there any slight difference when it comes to such compliance or regulations between public and private sector? Is there any difference in terms of how compliances are perceived, or is one focused more compared to the other?
There definitely is. Like I mentioned, like in the West, whenever you have a critical infrastructure in a public sector, you need to give, I would say, extra care, if I use a layman term.
Right.
Basically, because when it comes to public sector, it's more around the citizens' trust, which is very important in the region, health and safety.
Absolutely.
And also national security. So these things become, I would say, a primary driving factor. So there is heavy focus there. When it comes to private sector, as in the West, it's the same here, where it's more around the stakeholder, value going down, so on and so forth. So that's the primary focus, and the brand value, I would say.
Who pushes for such compliances within the organization?
So the good thing here that I have seen, especially with the public and the banking sector, is it is definitely a top-down approach, unlike I have seen. And that's the reason I also mentioned that people are ready to fund for security
Right.
solutions. unlike as a CISO where you have to fight for a budget to be given to you. So, and also it's because the government is so keen on digital infrastructure, digital infrastructure and smart cities. You need to have advanced solutions to back them up as well.
True.
And security too. So I think that drive is coming from the emirate itself, and which organization are forced to take it forward. Yes.
Right. But if we move more towards the private sector, yes, there is a certain push and certain drive coming from, let's say, the regulatory bodies and from the government itself to move towards a certain transformation or digital transformation objective. But who takes responsibility of security in the organization? Like, who do you point to? Okay, this is the person, he's responsible for the security of the organization. Is it the CISO or is it someone else as well?
So this is my opinion. I think a lot of CISOs will also agree to it. The moment you say that security is just the CISO's responsibility, you're doomed for failure. And the reason is, as a business, you need to own a risk. And I'll just give you an example. Like in a banking sector, your finance team becomes the first line of defense because they are the first people to get the red alerts related to a fraud happening. Right?
Right.
So they know, they assume that risk and they own that risk, that's on me, not just because there is a firewall out there which can help block some traffic coming in. That's not the case. So the ownership of security lies with the business as well as the CISO.
Correct. Okay. And they both need to be aligned when it comes
Absolutely.
to security.
Absolutely. Yes.
Understood. Have you seen more AI here compared to other countries? And when I say seen, I mean more focus on AI, more investment on AI, or even more solutions and services coming in which are more focused on AI?
When I moved to this region, every other conversation or the conferences that I've seen are very AI focused, and which made me feel good that we are ahead. At the same time, put in a fear as well. To circle back to the question you asked, yes, there's a lot more focus on AI in this region than how I would have seen in other regions.
And how is it perceived, like this sort of change around AI? Are people concerned that at some point certain functions will not be required anymore? People will lose their jobs. And same for the service side of the companies as well. Do you think there are certain kind of services which are not going to be required anymore in the future?
I wouldn't say that people or services will not be required in the future. The way I see it is that, and I'll give you an example in terms of your SOC operations, right? It's heavily automated, heavily AI.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that AI is going to take over that? No. What it does is it's going to cut down some of the repetitive jobs. So security analyst is no longer clicking the buttons. That's been done by AI or machine learning for that matter. And you're able to focus more on the oversight or strategy.
Right.
Right? And that's more human. And I think what will happen in the future is the most successful team is going to be a team which has a human and machine element together.
Got it. Yeah. So any security leader or CISOs, they will need to rethink what is the composition of their team going forward.
Right.
Because there are a lot of functions in there which are probably going to be automated more and more. And there are some functions which are still going to need human intervention or human oversight. So the team composition overall is probably going to look different 5 years down the line than it is now.
The count may not vary, to be honest with you, Bilal. The roles might vary, right? And growth will also be there. And the reason is that, why I say is that practically on the ground, and as an analyst, especially when it comes to SOC pros, they burn out, right? When you have to see through these logs in the past. Now, that is getting taken away, which is in a way helping them to focus more on other areas as well. So I don't think going forward the composition or the number of the employees or the team members are going to change. The roles might slightly differ.
Right. But since you said the numbers are not going to change, but isn't this what the general perception is? That if things are going to be automated, yes, there is going to be human intervention, but the amount of intervention required is going to be reduced a lot.
In the field of security, I think security is human. So no machine comes in. The way as a human you're able to, I would say, process that information as into what the threat actor might do. To some extent, it's your own human intelligence. On the other areas, there might be where redundancy might be there in the roles, but in terms of security, I don't think so. And the harsh reality of this industry is we don't have enough talents. We are always struggling to get the right talents on board.
What do you think is the biggest opportunity in the region of doing things differently that will have a big impact and can set an example for other regions as well?
I think because UAE in particular, with United Arab Emirates, like all the Arab Emirates together, thinking about collaborating on cyber will actually help. The collaboration is going to really help, where you know what risks or threats are going to come, right? So that is definitely going to help, in my opinion. Now, the second thing is around the talent pool, right? So we do have a shortage, right, in this area. So having that opportunity to grow local talents and not having to bring people from out will greatly help. That is one change, I think that they can definitely do. And thinking about cybersecurity in the sense that how can you merge that into the national strategy for that matter? Like how does it embed into the larger vision? So that's also, I think, would be something which the region can work on and set an example, especially on the first one, where they are so united in sharing information across, cyber information across. So you have like a unified threat information source in itself and can help each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So with collaboration, you're referring to the collaboration within the Emirates.
Absolutely,
Not
yes.
necessarily at a much wider geographical level.
No. So I'm talking about more around within the region, yes.
What's preventing it right now? Is it the strategy? Is it the focus? Or are there any other technical limitations which are preventing such kind of collaborations?
It isn't a technical limitation. What I have seen here is there is a big disparity between the maturity of cyber within different sectors. So I think the moment that a gap is kind of reduced, not the top one coming down, the bottom going up, we should be able to collaborate more.
Right, understood. To overcome that talent pool or talent gap that you mentioned, what is your approach to developing the next generation of talent, especially bringing more women into this field?
So I think that's a good question, right? And it's more around visibility, to be honest with you. And the reason I'm saying this is that if the current generation did not see a woman leader on top, they don't have anything to aspire for.
True.
So people like me or the others who came before me had a huge, so for me especially, I looked at some of the people, my predecessors before, and that gave me the path to aspire to become a cybersecurity leader. Similarly, I have that responsibility to the next generation as well. So the visibility is one, where the organization still should think about empowering women in technology. That is one aspect of it. And what we can also think, especially around women in technologies, there might be people who are interested in the field but will be, say, on the software side of things or automation or other technical side of things. Organizations can think about training them, more like an internal training, and how do we consume them into cyber. So I've done that in the past, and it has worked wonderfully. And that's something that I intend to do in this region as well within the current organization I'm in.
Right. How hard it is to lead in such a position? And because I believe in most of the security leadership positions, success means that nothing happens. Is it true?
Yes. Unfortunately, yes. For CISOs, I think success is equal to silence. When everything is silent, that is success. That doesn't mean that we measure the number of incidents coming and we are always measuring around where we are now, where we are headed to, how we are growing, where is our maturity. That becomes our KPI.
Right.
Yeah.
And when something does happen, what is the first reaction from the leadership?
Well, it depends on the cyber culture. I keep talking about it. Sorry about it. Thing is that incidents are going to happen. It's always about how prepared you are, right? It's not about okay, there's a fire. Let's go and kill the fights. It's not that. It's about preparedness. So the more prepared you are, your crisis playbooks are ready, your preparedness is ready. The more prepared you are, even in that storm, you're able to face it, right? Because incidents are going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. So the most successful ones are the ones who have prepared a number of times.
And how do you ensure this level of preparedness in different type of organization? Is it different way of preparedness depending on the culture as well? Or are there any certain procedures or playbooks that, no, this is what you have to follow to be prepared for this particular scenario? That if incident happens, these steps you have to follow. Since you mentioned about fire as well, when something happens in the building, there are certain procedures. Okay, you do this, and gather over here to make sure that you are safe. Are this same, or is the same approach applicable to security incidents as well?
It is. It definitely is. And you put it very, very rightly there in a very layman term that for every incident there is a playbook, a type of incident, a ransomware incident playbook, if I may have to quote. So depending on the sector you are, depending on the kind of business you deal with, and the number of users involved, the applications involved, the criticality of it, you need to have those playbooks written, prepared, tested as well. So that's why I talk about preparedness on the technology side as well as as well as on your team as well, how they can face it. Yes, the answer to your question is yes. There are specific playbooks depending on the sector, depending on the business, and depending on the number of users. Yes.
And what is the most effective way of testing this preparedness? Just running simulation exercises, is this sufficient enough to build a culture of preparedness, or is this something else needs to be done as well?
I think testing to a great extent helps. And also thinking creatively around the scenarios of a threat coming into our environment. That creativity really helps. You call it as threat modeling, other terms that we use in our world. So that really helps. The more your incident response playbooks are curated in that way and tested, as with anything that we do, the more we practice, more prepared we are, right? And if you have just looked at examples A, B, C, if example D is going to happen, since you've already prepared for A, B, C, you know how to tackle, at least mentally, you're prepared to tackle D, right? It's the same principle.
Right. The small and medium enterprises, especially in the Middle East, you think they have the required resources and required playbooks in place that enables them to be ready for such incident if something happens?
My answer is no, from what I have seen. And mind it, it's just closely just rough about a year for me in this region. And it goes back to what I said earlier, the disparity between certain sectors, the maturity to other sectors where the maturity level is not there. And especially when it comes to smaller and medium-sized organizations, that might be the case. Be it the right kind of skills or resources being there, and to the level of cyber maturity they need to have is not there. It's running, so it's okay. That's how it's going for now. Yes.
But why isn't the focus there on this? Is it like they don't realize the impact of the risk associated with it? Is it the lack of funding itself? Or is it they understand they have the investment available, but they can't find the resources?
I would say the first two are the predominant reasons. Again, it goes back to who owns security. It's not just the CISO,
Right. Yeah.
It's the business as well. So does business have that kind of culture? Then they will think about investing in that, right? Now, you also need to understand when it is small and medium-sized business, they are thinking mostly about surviving, taking the business to A to Z. So security might not be there in their mind. So it's up to the business themselves, whoever is sitting on top, to drive that culture. And that's where even the regulations that we have within the region will also enforce them to do it, at least
Right.
a small step.
So, in order for any leader, especially when it's focused on security, to lead efficiently, it's not just the technical skills that he needs to have. He needs to have a lot more as well. Are there any one or two specific skills that you feel outside of, let's say, IT or technical that, okay, this is something young people start developing to make sure that they can become more effective leaders in future?
So I will have to give you two answers for this. Now, to become effective leaders in future, you need to start taking responsibility a lot more, right? So that helps you to become a resilient leader in the future. And that depends on the leader you're working with. For me, if I don't give that level of stretch goals to my team and give that responsibility for them to take that forward, they will never become good leaders. Now, the initial part of your question around, are there any other skills apart from your technical skills which leaders require? I can only say one thing, which is storytelling. It might sound bizarre, but the way I'm trying to say is that if, as a leader, if you're not able to convert a risk or a threat into a business value, no one will gain trust from you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So in this world, that trust is the security. The trust from the business is the security. So as a leader, even I really focus on is to build that trust from other business leaders by talking to them in business value, how I'm able to convert a risk or a security to the business value that they need to focus on.
Right. So in that perspective, I think the earlier point that you mentioned, that security is everyone's responsibility. So the security leader itself has a big part to play. He needs to make sure he's providing the right context and the right story to the rest of the business leaders as well, so they understand what are the risks and why they need to focus more on it.
They do. I mean, you're right. It's everybody's responsibility, but when it comes to giving that information, the right kind of information, as leaders, we have to be very careful. In the sense, give that story in the right way to them. And when you build that trust, even the most resistant business leader will change his perception towards and start thinking about security more as his own accountability.
That's absolutely right about leadership. And thank you so much for sharing these insights about resilience, about risk, about the culture in the organization, and how it all links together to make an effective leader within cybersecurity. Thank you so much for your thoughts.
Thank you, Bilal. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And do like, subscribe, and share, and keep watching because there's a lot more coming up on the Unpatched Conversations.